So I really appreciate everybody being here. This class is for real estate agents, but I also invited mortgage brokers to it as well. I just think it's great to learn, from other people. And there's a lot of different loan programs that we're going to talk about in this webinar, but this is my contact information here. lendfla.com is my website. For those of you that don't know me, I have been in real estate and mortgage for a long time. Since 2001, back in the day, I owned a real estate and mortgage company. When the market crashed, I went full-time into real estate. So I sold real estate from 2008 until the middle of 2016. And then when I moved back from Miami over to Southwest Florida, I decided to get back into mortgage. So I do have my real estate broker associate license. I do not practice real estate. I'm a licensed mortgage broker. I'm licensed in Florida, Mass, and Texas. And I also have my real estate instructor permit. So that's a little bit about me. I like to bring that up because a lot of times people are like, how do you know so much about real estate as a mortgage broker? And it's because I sold real estate for a very long time. And I know all of the, I know what you guys are going through. I was specifically a listing agent towards the middle and the end. I did work with buyers in the beginning. But listings was my thing. So if you guys need any help, questions, anything when it comes to real estate, I'm your girl. Done-by-one.ai is a CRM that I just launched in June. So if you are struggling with a CRM and you want a CRM, whether you're in mortgage or in real estate, please reach out to me. You can check it out at done-by-one.ai, and I'd love to show you what I have going on over there. But that's pretty much it. So we will get started with the class. So today's agenda, and I'm going to definitely talk fast. So if you guys want to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me afterwards on any of the things that I talk about, we can definitely do that and go a little bit more in depth. But we're going to talk about listings in today's market. We're going to talk about price reductions because those are real right now. Weekly updates you should be having if you're working with a seller, weekly updates. And even if you're working with a buyer, you should be updating your ready to go buyers weekly on what's going on with the market. We're not going to get into scripts, but I will give you my information so that we can talk about scripts one-on-one at a later time, reverse prospecting. And then we're going to talk about several different loan programs. And you're probably wondering, well, as a real estate agent, why do I need to know about these loan programs? And there's several reasons why, but the biggest thing is that in this market, in today's market, there's going to be a lot of real estate agents that are getting out of the business. And only the strong will survive, okay? So if you want to stay in real estate, you have to not only have a competitive edge, but in this market, you have to get a little different, right, in how you approach things. And so I'm seeing a lot of listings on the MLS not marketed the way that they could be marketed because of specific programs that, that are out there. And if you don't know about it, you're not going to let the sellers know. So if you go onto a listing presentation and you're like, hey, I know that you have this distressed property, most real estate agents are going to put cash only in the MLS listing, but I know of a great property that will offer financing on this type of property. That's going to open up your buyer pool for your seller, and it's also going to get the seller more money, right? So if you're only having to pay cash for a home, that's going to really limit the buyers, and that's with the fix and flip loans. So we're going to go over different loan programs that's going to give you that competitive edge over all of the other real estate agents out there. So let's talk about the current market right now. Okay, I know it's totally different than 2 years ago. 2 years ago, or even a year and a half ago, things were flying off the shelf. You had to also in that market get creative. Buyers were crying. They were getting outbid by cash buyers. If you've been in the industry for the past couple of years, you know what I'm talking about. So our market has changed, and it's going to continue to change. And you as a real estate agent, as well as a mortgage professional, need to really start to sharpen your tools, because with, a different market, you're going to have a different strategy. And so right now there's increased inventory, there's higher interest rates, there's affordability issues. Prices are still high in comparison to with the rates. And so it's making it unaffordable for some people to even buy a home. People want to move, but they don't want to lose their low interest rate. So all of these different issues that the clients have are issues that you have to help figure out how to overcome. And you're going to do that by knowing these different loan programs, knowing your scripts, knowing what you can do within contracts, and also knowing your market stats. And so market stats are probably going to be one of the most important things that you have to really, pay attention, especially when you're going on listing presentations. Okay, you need to know your days on market, right? General and specific. And what I mean by that is if you are, in a specific area, let's just say Lee County, you want to know the market stats for Lee County, but you also want to know the market stats specific to that person's neighborhood because they might be a different thing, okay? You want to know the months of supply, and I'm going to show you why in a little bit, why months of supply is very important. You want to know what's active, pending, and sold, and when you're pricing property, you need to go by the sold comps, especially in a declining market. And I will tell you, I know that there's a lot of optimistic people out there that will say, oh, prices are still high, da, da, da. We're in a declining market and we're going to continue to be in a declining market. And I'll show you because the numbers don't lie. And so if you're a real estate agent, the number one thing I would be doing every single morning, and this is what I did every single morning as an agent, is check the market stats. Go into NLS, see what's going on with the market stats. I always looked at the new listings to see, hey, are there any new listings that might be a good fit for one of my buyers? And then just see what's going on with the market. So if we look, and I took this from the Bonita Springs Estero Realtor Association of Realtors, but no matter where you are in the United States, you're going to have market updates or market stats from your board of realtors. Okay, so you should be able to pull this from any MLS. But if we look at, and Estero is a very small area, so I don't want you to think this is all of Lee County or all of Collier County, but I just pulled this morning. We have an increase of 171% in new listings, okay? The pending sales, that's great. They're up 80%, but the closed sales are down 33%. And so that's, we're not seeing as many closed sales, but we're seeing a lot more listings come on the market. And that's all about supply and demand, right? If there's more more supply, well, then prices are going to start to come down a little bit because if there's not enough demand, but there's a lot more supply, in order to get the listings to sell, you're going to have to start to reduce your price. We can see this is huge. The median sales price went from 1.2 down to 617. Like, that's crazy. Now, once again, this is a very specific general small area. It's not the entire Lee County. So this might not be a great representation, but I can tell you that in looking at the market stats by county, it's very similar where we have a lot of new listings coming on the market. We are not seeing as many closed sales. And if you're a listing agent right now, you pretty much know that. And we're seeing the average sales price come down. We're also seeing the months of supply go up, right? So we're seeing a lot more supply and inventory. Now, all of this is based on Estero. You want to run the numbers when you're going on a listing presentation based on that person's specific area. Okay. And then one other thing that I thought was interesting is if you look at the chart down here and you look at the median sales price for a single family back in 2007, which we all know what happened after 2007, and look at where we are in 2023 today. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to see 2007 and 8 all over again. But what I personally do believe is that we are going to see definite pricing coming down. And we are going to see more distressed sales. So this is just something that I pulled today from the MLS. If you look here, we had in the past 7 days, 1,067 new listings come on the market. Only 458 sold. Okay, so that's not a big number compared to how many listings are coming on the market. I can tell you, because I look at the MLS all the time, before we were seeing a lot more listings, or the new listings coming on the market, and the amount that were sold were very similar. If not, the solds were more than the listings. And so we're seeing something totally different here. We can see 125 of them expired, right? There were days when there was very little expired listings. We're starting to see a lot more expired listings. There's a lot of different reasons why listings expire, but one of the reasons why listings might expire is because of pricing, right? Because they're not priced right, because the sellers are still stuck here with their pricing and the market is here. They're not understanding where the market is, and that's your job as a real estate agent to really explain this. And then look at the price decrease. We're seeing 1,215 properties decrease their price in the last 7 days. 159 withdrew, okay? So this is something to really keep your pulse on the market so that you know what's going on in the area, as well as in the specific counties that you're working in, okay? So when it comes to pricing property, and I see there's a question, I'll ask it in 1 second. But when it comes to pricing property, especially in this market, you do not want to overprice the property, or you are going to chase that market down. And this is what I mean by chasing the market down. So in an appreciating market, okay, if you go on a listing presentation and let's just say the seller wants whatever. You think it should be listed at 410. The seller says, I want to list it at 420. That's fine, because if the market's going up, eventually, if their motivation isn't super high, it should get to where they want, to sell at. In a depreciating market, what happens is if you go to a listing presentation and you think it should be listed at $400,000, and the seller says, I want to list it at 420. Let's wait a couple of weeks. I really need to get as much as I can out of the listing. Let's list it at 420. And then if it doesn't sell in a couple of weeks, we'll go down to the 400. Okay. What happens is a couple weeks from now, if you list at 420, by the time you go down to 400, if that listing price is at 390, you're now still chasing that market down. And now you have to resell that seller on why that price now needs to be at 390. So this is something that you definitely need to explain on your listing presentation, because you don't want to constantly chase the market down, especially with a motivated seller. And in this market, I would not be one listing agent to put the home on the market with an unmotivated seller just to see if it's going to sell. Because, you want to make sure you're working with motivated sellers, especially in a market with what we have and what I think we're going to have. So when you're pricing property, number one is you need to review the local market, right? You need to bring your market stats to the sellers, because they're not in the market and they're not always, keeping the pulse on the market as to what's going on. A lot of those sellers are still stuck here thinking, the market is here when it might be here. You want to base your price on sold comparables, not on active, because the actives are nothing, right? The actives don't mean anything. The sold comparables is what you need to look at, because that is what an appraiser is going to look at. An appraiser is going to see what has sold. And so a lot of times an agent will go in and price the property based on actives on the market. You have to base it back, you have to list it based on the solds, okay? You also really want to determine their motivation, because the motivation is going to help determine the sales price. And this is where you have to sharpen your tools with your scripts. And this is also where you need to know your days on market, the months of supply, and how that works. And so how you can tie that all together is, let's say you have a seller that needs to move to Massachusetts for a job transfer, and they need to be there by February. Okay. We're in November. So they're like, well, you know what? I want to go ahead and list the home at 420 when you know it should be at 400, let's just say. And, but they need to be there by February. If you know that we have a 6-month supply of inventory, right? And the average days on market for that home is 98, let's just say, okay? So that's almost 4 months, right? So when you go to that listing presentation, you have to sit with the seller and you have to say, you know, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I know that you need to be in Massachusetts by February. I also know you want to price the home at $420,000, okay? Right now, we have a 5.5 month supply of inventory, and on average, it's taking homes 98 days, the homes just like yours, 98 days to get them sold. So what that means is if we price the property high or even maybe right at market value, it's going to take at least 3.5 months for us to get a buyer for your home and another 30 to 45 days to get it closed. Usually it's 30, but you can say 30 to 45 if you want to make it a little bit more exaggerating. So 30 to 45 days to get it sold. So giving your time frame of February, that means, November, December, January, February, right? To sell. And then you're probably not going to be getting this property sold until May. Okay. Based on the months of supply of inventory and the average days on market. So that's how you start to use your market stats to get your sellers to price the properties to where they need to be priced at. So you need to explain to them how the days on market works. You need to explain to them the months of inventory. You need to explain to them the market. And then you also want to show them the competition, right? Who is their competition? What other active properties are on the market? How long have they been on the market? Have any of them expired? You can show them the expireds and show them they don't want to be an expired, right? A lot of times an expired listing in some cases is due to price. Not all, because expired listings was my thing. And communication was the number one issue sellers had with their real estate agents. They said that their agents never communicated with them. So what you want to do is explain to them using the market stats why they don't want to price it high, why they don't want to price high and come down later, why they want to price it, where the market value is today, because you may be doing another price reduction. And I want to assure you that a new listing at the right price with the right marketing is going to sell. Okay. So even though I remember the days when we had, 18 months supply of inventory after 2008, that was crazy, but we still got properties sold. So a new listing at the right price with the right marketing is going to sell. So I'm not going to go into price and property scripts. My calendar is bookwithdanielle.com. My email is danielle@brehfunding.com. Take a picture of this with your cell phone. You do not have to schedule with me now. But if you want to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me, or you want me to email you scripts, we can do that. I can show you how to use market stats and things like that. I have an entire class on the listing presentation, so I'm not going to go into that now, but that's my contact info. The best way to reach me if you want an appointment, or email the scripts over to you. Okay. So reverse prospecting. Reverse prospecting, I was going to show you guys how to do it, but I actually have a video on my YouTube channel on how to do it. So once again, if you want me to go one-on-one with you on reverse prospecting and how to do it, please book an appointment with me on my calendar or send me an email. We can hop on, a phone call. But I'm going to explain the strategy because this is a great way. And I don't think every real estate agent knows about this, but it's a great way to give you that competitive edge over all of the other agents out there, is because you can let them know that one of the things that you offer when you list their property is reverse prospecting. And what reverse prospecting is that when you go into the MLS and you go into your listing, let's say you have a listing, okay? You go into your listing, scroll down to the bottom of the MLS, there's going to be a little tab that says reverse prospecting. When you click on that, it will show you every real estate agent that has a buyer that has received your listing in their email as a potential fit. Because as a real estate agent, when you enter your peeps, right, your clients into the MLS to get those MLS drips, it's going to alert you, the listing agent, that, hey, Susie Smith's client received an email. It might be a fit on your listing. So you can now reach out to every single one of those agents and just let them know about your listing. That's one of the ways that you can do it, okay? Another way that you can do it is if you reduce the price, you can then reach out to every single real estate agent in your reverse prospecting and let them know of a price reduction. You can also let them know of a new loan program or a new offering, which is what I'm going to show you guys in just a second. So reverse prospecting is a great tool to use. And it's also a great, competitive edge that you can have in your listing presentation on why they should list with you over somebody else. I can tell you as an expired listing agent, I had to be a bulldog because there are so many listing agents out there that call on expireds. And so I had to be super sharp on my listing presentation. And I also had to find my competitive edge, right? What am I going to do differently than every other real estate agent out there? So that's what you need to be thinking about and putting in your listing presentation. What are you going to do differently than every other agent out there? Okay. And reverse prospecting is one of them. Now, I can also let you know that reverse prospecting can be tedious and time consuming. So maybe you have a virtual assistant do that for you, right? Send out that mass email for you. So we're going to talk about loan programs. We're going to talk about the 2-1 buy down and how you can use that and how it works. We're going to talk about move up and move down, and why the people that don't want to leave their 3.5% interest rate, what you can say to them. We're going to look at blended rates, the buy before you sell, the assumable fix and flip, and the DSCR. Okay. And I'm going to show you why it is important to know about these loan programs to be able to offer them to, offer them to potential buyers. But once you know about this and you're on that listing presentation, once again, it's that competitive edge that you have, right? So the temporary buy down, I get questions about this all the time. And the reason why I put 2-1 buy down in here is because I find that the 2-1 buy down is going to be the best, most economical, I guess, for the seller. And I'm going to show you guys how this works in just a second. And then at the end of the presentation, while April's getting her stuff together, I will show you the calculator because I get calls all the time from listing agents saying, I want to offer the 2-1 buy down for, potential buyers. How much is that going to cost my seller? And it really depends on the property. It depends on a bunch of different things, right? So there's not an actual answer for that. And I'm going to show you why in just a second. So what is a temporary buy down? It's just like a seller concession. As a real estate agent, you know pretty much how to write your seller concessions. It's just like a seller concession. So it's a seller concession used to reduce the buyer's interest rate for a certain period of time. Okay, a buy down in many cases will be more beneficial to a home buyer than a seller just dropping the price. And I'm going to show you why in a second. So in a lot of cases, it's going to be more beneficial also to the seller because by dropping the price by $20,000 does not have a huge effect on a buyer. And it's a $20,000 price reduction to a seller. So let me show you the 2-1 buy down and how it actually works and why it's better for buyers and sellers. The 3-2-1 buy down, the 2-1 buy down, and the 1-1 buy down are all different types of buy downs. We are offering a free appraisal right now on any 1-1 buy down. So if you guys have, listings and you want to offer that 1-1 buy down, I am offering a free appraisal. I can show you how to put it in the confidential remarks, what it looks like, so that way you can see it. And you can just put it right in there, in the confidential remarks, free appraisal for, using the 1-1 buy down with Danielle at BREH Funding. Okay, so this is how the 2-1 buy down works. Now, there in this scenario is using a rate of 6.125. 6.125 is not realistic right now, unless you're doing, I just quoted an FHA 5-year ARM in the sixes, like 6.5, but this is really not today's interest rate. Okay. So let's say you have a home, right? And it's listed at $500,000. And I'm going to go through this column here, the first column first. So you have a home, like you have it listed at 500,000. Someone's going to come in, get a loan. They're going to put 5% down, conventional, 95% primary residence. Their loan amount's going to be $475. Okay. The interest rate in this example is 6.125. Don't worry about the APR. That has no effect on what the actual monthly payment is at all. So 6.125 is the interest rate. It's a 30-year mortgage that makes their mortgage payment $2,886. Now that's principal and interest only. That does not include taxes and insurance and everything else. Okay. So you have two options as a real estate agent as well as a seller. You can say, let's say the seller comes to you and says, you know what? I think we should drop the price $20,000. I really got to move to Massachusetts for my job interview or my new job or whatever. You can say to the seller and think about it, right? Because your commission is also based on purchase price. So you can say to the seller, well, we have a couple of options. We can look at reducing the price by $20,000, or we can offer a 2-1 temporary buy down to any buyer that is coming to purchase the property. So let's look at the price reduction and then we'll look at the buy down, and I'm going to explain both. Okay. So let's say we drop the price to $480. It's still a 5% down payment. The loan amount went from $475 to $456. The interest rate stayed the same at the 6.125. The total monthly payment is now $2,770. So by dropping $20,000 on the purchase price, you're saving the seller $115. Okay. So you have a $20,000 price reduction to the seller, a $20,000 cost to the seller. The net proceeds to the seller are at $480. Using the temporary buy down strategy, okay, you can keep the purchase price the same of the $500,000. The down payment is still 5%, so your loan amount is $475. The way the 2-1 buy down works is in year one, right? When they first get the loan, that first year, their interest rate is going to be reduced by 2%. 2%. Okay. The next year, it's going to be reduced by 1%. And then in year 3, it's going to do the fully amortized or fully indexed rate for the remainder of the loan. Now, I'm sure you've all heard that we are expecting interest rates to come down, hopefully sooner rather than later, but we don't know when. But in the next 2 years, I swear they're not going to be this high. They cannot be. They're definitely not going to be. So we are expecting a lot of people to refinance. So this is allowing somebody to get into the home at a much lower rate now, today, and then have that opportunity to refinance into that lower rate in the future, more than likely before the 3 years is up. Now, if we look here, okay, we can see that just by going to a 4.125% interest rate in the first year, their mortgage payment is going from $2,886 to $2,302. Okay, so that's a huge savings. It's it's $584 a month in savings just by going from a 6% to a 4% interest rate and not changing any terms of the purchase price or the loan. In year 2, we're going from a 6% to a 5%. So in year 2, their mortgage payment is going from $2,302 up to $2,586. So they're going to have a monthly savings of $299 a month, every single year in the second year. And then in year 3, it's going to go up to that $2,886. Okay. So two things that I want to point out here. Number one, do you see how having the same exact loan amount, the same exact purchase price, is going to save the buyer so much more money than just reducing the price by $20,000? You'll also see that it's going to save the seller almost, $10,000, because this is how much the 2-1 buy down is going to cost the seller, $10,606. Now you're probably wondering why it's going to, how did we come up with that figure? What the seller is doing is they're paying the interest rate savings up front in the loan. So if you take $584 and times that by 12, and then you take $299 and you times that by 12, and you add the two of those numbers together, you're going to get $10,606. And that is why it's very specific per property on the 2-1 buy down, because we don't know actually what the interest rate is. We don't really know what the purchase price is. We don't know what the loan amount is. So when people call me and ask me, hey, what is it going to cost to do a 2-1 buy down for my seller? I don't really know, because I don't know. If you give me the specifics or the figures and I have a credit score and I know a roundabout interest rate, then I can definitely tell you. But without that information, I don't know what it's going to be, because what the seller is doing is just prepaying that interest that the buyer would have actually paid. So this is definitely a great strategy to use instead of just reducing the price. It's a win for the buyer, it's a win for the seller, and it's a win for the listing agent, right? So as a buyer's agent, this is also another strategy that you can use. Let's just say you find a property and that property is listed at $480 because the listing agent didn't really know about it. But the property really will appraise at the $500,000. You know the value's there. So instead of going in at the $480, why don't you go in and say, hey, we want to offer $495,000. We're asking for, a 2-1 buy down and a seller concession in X amount of dollars. Now, I've had people in the past say to me, well, can the buyer pay for the buy down? It doesn't make sense for the buyer to pay for the buy down because they're just prepaying that interest. So instead of doing a chunk up front, put that money, the $10,000 in the bank somewhere, earn more interest on it, and just make your total monthly payments. This really only makes sense for a seller to offer it to a buyer. So that is the 2-1 buy down example. I know that this is a really long, web domain, but if you go to mortgageprofessor.com, there's all different mortgage calculators there. And like I said, if we have a couple minutes while April's getting her stuff together at the end, I will show you guys how to actually do this. So the move up, move down buying hack. This is what a lot of people are doing right now. Okay. And if you don't have a buyer or a seller that is using this hack, right? You, as I mentioned, need to sharpen your tools. And so you can say to your buyer or seller, I'm going to show you the script here in a minute. So let's just say you have a client, right? And they want to buy a new home. They have a low 3.5% interest rate on their current home. They owe $300,000. They, really want to get a bigger home. They're outgrowing their current home, but their problem is that they don't want to have a much higher mortgage payment, right? So let's look at these figures, and I'm going to show you how you can help them determine if it makes sense for them to move into that bigger home. I can tell you, and we've been seeing it on the news, the credit card debt in the United States, I think, is at $1 trillion. It's insane. I have done refinances recently, taking people out of 2% interest rates into 7% interest rates because of their debt, right? It is cheaper for them to refinance their home, use their equity into into a 7 or 8% interest rate, and eliminating all of their other debt, than paying that high credit card interest, right? And so I want you guys to think about that. If people have equity in their home, yes, we're doing it on refinances, but as a listing agent, if you have a seller that has equity in their home, right? In this case that I'm going to go through in a second, they have $200,000 in their mind. They're not thinking, well, let me just pay off all my debt. And instead of putting 200 on the new home, I will only put down 100. They don't think like that, right? So this is where you come in and you can let them know, you know what? I've had some of my other clients actually buy that bigger home and their mortgage payment is the same, if not less, sometimes a little bit more. And you can share with them how. So let's use this scenario. You have a client, they have a $300,000 balance on their current home. Their interest rate is at 3.5%. Their home value is $500,000 and they have about $200,000 in equity. In their mind, they're probably saying, okay, I'm going to, buy another home. I'm going to put $200,000 down if they want a $700,000 house. So now my loan at $500,000 and 7.5% interest is going to be so much more. I can't afford it. But what they can do is, if they accumulated credit card debt, or maybe they have car loans or student loans or all of these other loans, in addition to their monthly mortgage payment, credit card debt, the average interest rate right now is 24%. Car loans are around 8%. So if they want to buy a home for $700,000, right? In their current situation, their mortgage payment at $300,000 and a 3.5% interest is $1,347. So you can see that's a very low mortgage payment, right? Not including taxes and insurance. Let's say they have credit card bills. They have about $60,000 in credit card bills at a 24% interest rate. If they were to pay off and not accumulate any more credit card debt, they just want to eliminate their credit card debt. In 5 years, it's going to cost them $1,726 a month to pay off $60,000, okay? And then if they have their car loan of $40,000, that's costing them about $791 a month. So when we look at their monthly mortgage payment of $1,347, their credit card bills and their car, they're paying about $3,864 a month in their total payments. If we use this strategy and they go and buy a $700,000 home, they take the $200,000 in equity that they have, right? Instead of putting the $200,000 down on the home, they put $100 on the home and $100 to eliminate their debt. So the car's gone, all of their credit cards are gone, right? A $600,000 loan at a 7% interest is $3,992. Once again, not including taxes and insurance, right? So they now, if we look at the previous example, when they have their low mortgage at 3.5%, and they're probably not keeping this home for 30 years. So eventually they're going to have to get out of that 3.5% interest rate if they sell the home. Their credit card bills and their payment, they're at $3,864. With this strategy, they are basically almost at the same monthly payment, right? Because they eliminated the credit card debt. They got rid of the car. Yes, it's a higher interest rate, which we should be able to refinance and come down to a lower rate at some point in the future, but they're getting the home that they want and they're eliminating their other debt at the same time, okay? So that is a way that if you have a client that wants a bigger home, that needs a bigger home, or even a smaller home, but they can't get out of their brain that they have a 3.5% interest rate and now it's going to be 7 or 7.5%, you can use this strategy. And a way to go about that is by saying, hey, I've actually had a client tell me the same thing. They're at a 3.5% interest rate. Use this example if you want to, if you don't have one. And what they did was they had $200,000 in equity. They actually eliminated all of their credit card debt, car loans, student loans, everything. And they were able to get the house of their dreams, and their monthly payment was exactly the same, right? Or almost similar. So use this scenario when talking to people when they're telling you, I don't want to get rid of that 3.5% interest, because we all know the reality. If someone actually needs a larger home, they're eventually going to get a larger home. So why not today, right? So that is a little hack for you there. Drcalculator.com has a ton of different calculators, and the blended rate calculator is one of them. So you can go here and you can do the blended rate calculator. You could put in, everything that they have. So if you want to actually sit down with them, whether you're a mortgage professional or a real estate professional, this probably should be a mortgage professional conversation. But it doesn't matter, right? You can sit down and look at all of their credit card statements. What is this balance? What is the interest rate? Plug it in, okay? Plug in their mortgage, plug in all of this stuff so that you can then show them what they're actually going to be saving based on the equity that they currently have. Okay. The buy before you sell program. Before I get into that, I just want to check the questions real quick. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. The buyer getting the 2-1 buy down is essential. Yes. So the buyer is financing the buy down. Yeah, I think I explained that. Tiffany, if I didn't, just, retype the question again. But I think I kind of explained like how all of that works. In April, can somebody just put in the chat if you guys can hear me? Because I just want to make sure everyone, I'm assuming you can because I see everybody still as a participant, but just want to make sure. Okay. So this is another program that is amazing. We have several different programs that you can use. Okay, April can hear me. So this is called the Buy Before You Sell program, and this has been around for a little while. But basically, if somebody wants to buy another home, right? They have equity in their current home. You have to have equity. They want to buy another home, but they just with, the kids and the jobs and this and that or whatever, right? They don't want to do a simultaneous closing, or they don't want to buy another home, before selling their current home, or they can't qualify with both mortgage payments, right? So the Buy Before You Sell program will allow you to get the equity out of your current home to use on a down payment for your next home without selling your current home. Okay. It will also allow you to not have to include your current mortgage payment in your debt to income ratio. It will allow you to make a stronger offer on your next home. And so this is how it works. With this program, we get you completely pre-qualified first, right? So we make sure you're able to buy another home. It has to be with a conventional loan. Okay. And then the lender is going to make an offer on your home, an all cash offer with no contingencies. So when you go to make an offer on another home, you can let the listing agent know that you already have an offer on your home. There's no contingencies. It's a cash offer. They are 100% buying your home. Okay. When you are doing your mortgage process right now, we're not going to include your current mortgage payment in your debt to income ratio because you have a cash offer on your home with no contingencies, right? So when you go to closing, 2 days before closing, the lender that's going to do your conventional loan in the future, now, is going to wire the funds from that you need to put down on the home. So after you close on this new home, you have 21 days to list your property, okay? You can list it with any real estate agent that you want. In fact, it can already be listed. So if it's already listed, it's not a big deal, okay? But when you go into contract to do this, you then have 90 days to get your home under contract. If the property is not sold in 90 days, the lender is going to buy the home. Okay, they don't want to buy the home. They've only bought one home in 2023. That was it. And they do this program all the time. I know it's a little confusing. So schedule a one-on-one with me afterwards if you want to go more into detail. Once the home is, if they do have to buy the home, they're going to continue to market the property. And then whatever they sell it for. So if they bought your home for $300 and they sell it for $350, they're going to give you the $50,000. So above whatever they bought it for, they're going to reimburse you for that money. Okay. So as I mentioned, only one home in 2023 was bought. But the great thing is what they're doing is they're giving you a 0% bridge loan on your equity. So they are, number one, making a cash offer on your home so you can get a conventional loan and not include your current mortgage payment in your debt to income ratio. They are giving you the equity from, not all of it, a portion of it, to be used for the down payment. So if they give you a $30,000 bridge loan, they're wiring the funds to the closing table 2 days before the closing table, okay? The fee is 2.4%. So on the bridge loan, it's a 0% interest, okay? So you're getting a 0% interest bridge loan, but their fee is 2.4% on the purchase price. So if you think about it this way, right? If your real estate agent fee is 6%, I know that's a touchy subject right now, but 6%, 3% buyer, 3% seller, right? So the total 6. If they use this program, their fee is actually going to be 8.4% because they also have to pay 2.4% for the program. They have to be getting a conventional loan. It does not work for FHA or VA, but essentially this will allow a buyer to buy another home before their home is sold. It will allow the buyer to take the equity out of their home and use it for the down payment before the home is sold. And then it gives them 3 to 4, sometimes 6 months, just depending on, the time frame on everything, to get their property listed and sold. And if they get it all done and the bank doesn't buy the home, which it usually doesn't, they just have to pay that 2.4% to the bank. So it is an amazing program. It's called Buy Before You Sell. Like I said, if you want more information on that, this is how you can get your current sellers into homes quicker, especially if they find a home that they absolutely love. They want that home, whatever. Maybe they're moving out of the area, right? And they have to move and they need that money. So this is just a great buy before you sell program. As I mentioned, this is how it works. So get your client's current property approved and the financing approved. We have to see how much you're going to get, your client is going to get from the equity. That way we know. Okay. Your client can then make a strong offer on the new home. They can then move on the scheduled closing date. And then this is also going to maximize the home sales price for you as the listing agent, because then you can come in and have either a staged home, or maybe, you go in, you stage it. You don't have people living in the home. You don't have the clutter. You don't have to worry about, okay, well, are they going to be home to take the dogs out if a buyer's coming? So you are going to be able to maximize the home sales price by them not being in the home when you list the property. Okay. Assumable mortgages. When you are meeting with your sellers and you're on a listing presentation, okay, you want to find out if they have an FHA, VA, or a USDA loan. Those are usually the only loans that can be assumable. So conventional is not going to work. If they have an FHA loan, a VA loan, or a USDA loan, get a copy of the mortgage statement and get a copy of their note, okay? So you can see if it's assumable. This is a great way for you guys to market this property as an assumable mortgage. And think about it. If you're on the listing appointment and you say to the seller, by the way, and you're looking at the seller net sheet with them, what type of mortgage do you currently have, right? Even if you know it's a conventional or a jumbo, you can throw it out there like you know what you're talking about. Oh, okay, you have a conventional loan. Well, with an FHA or VA, da-da-da. But if they say FHA or VA, you can say, a lot of real estate agents do not know about this technique. But what we can do is offer, possibly, if your lenders, if everything works out, your mortgage to be assumable. So the new buyer can technically come in and assume that mortgage at that buyer's lower interest rate. What they have to do is they do have to get qualified to buy the home. So it's not just like, oh yeah, here's my mortgage. Because in most mortgages, there's something called a due on sale clause. So what that means is that if you go and sell your home or try to get somebody to take over your mortgage, There's things in the note that will prevent that from happening. And then that whole entire mortgage can become due within a certain period of time. So the assumable mortgage will allow the buyer to purchase a home by taking over the seller's current mortgage. One reason buyers decide to buy a home with an assumable is to take advantage of financing with a lower interest rate if rates have risen. And so what the buyer is going to do is go to the actual lender that is holding the mortgage right now and get pre-qualified with them to see if they qualify to take over this mortgage. They will look at credit, debt to income ratio, and things like that. So let's use this as an example. You have a seller, it's a veteran. They got a VA loan. They have a low 2.75% interest rate. Their balance is $300,000. They want to sell the home for $500,000 and they're willing to have a new buyer assume the mortgage. Okay. The new buyer has $200,000 to put down, which is amazing. And they just assume that new mortgage at 2.75% interest rate. And they do not have to be a veteran. So that's another thing to point out, right? They assume that mortgage at the 2.75 interest rate, the balance of $300,000, they bring the $200,000 to closing. Using that same example, if the new buyer does not have the $200,000, then the new buyer has to get the difference, right, between the $300,000 and the $500,000. So what they can do is assume that $300,000 at the 2.75 interest rate, and then go and get a second mortgage for the 175 or whatever, 100, whatever they need. Okay. The thing that you want to do is, or us as a mortgage professional would be doing, is looking at that blended rate calculator, because it might not make sense if the second mortgage is $175,000 and the rate is at 7.5 or 8 or 9 or whatever, right? Plus the 2.75, it might not make sense. So it is great to offer the assumable. It will give you an edge as a real estate agent to know about that and to offer that, but it's not always going to be in the best benefit of the buyer. Fix and flips. This I posted about the other day. Like, this is actually one of the reasons I went from retail lending to broker, because I have done quite a few fix and flips. My husband is an investor, and I needed the fix and flip loan. In fact, a lot of these programs are why I went from retail to broker, is because I did not have a lot of different out-of-the-box programs when I was on the retail lending side. And I also did not have a lot of control. So if you're a mortgage broker on this call and you want more information, you can schedule a one-on-one confidential consultation with me, and I can go over the difference between retail and broker. But anyways, I was on the MLS the other day. I saw a ton of properties listed as cash only, right? If you're selling a property cash only, that limits your buyer pool. And so the fix and flip loans are awesome. Like, I personally have 3 homes right now under renovation that I bought with the fix and flip loans. And so if you see a home like this, a lot of times people think, oh, 203K, right? Or like the Fannie Mae home style, the renovation loans. That's fine, right? But there's not a lot of people, especially buyers, that are like, oh yeah, let me get myself into like this giant mess. Now, an investor that is used to this, yeah, all day long, but an actual home buyer most of the time does not want to deal with anything like this, right? And so if you have a property, the roof could be falling in. Maybe it doesn't even have a roof. I don't know. You see a property like this is your edge, number one, as a real estate agent, to go into that listing presentation or meet with the seller. Or, hey, if you're looking to prospect these properties that you see, without an actual real estate agent. This is a great way for you to get in, because the fix and flip loans are awesome. I'm going to go over the terms with you, but this is what the lender wants to see on a fix and flip property. Okay. So there's 2 different things. There's an experienced investor and an inexperienced investor. Experienced investor, we're going to call EV. Inexperienced investor, we're going to call IEV. I just want to show you how this works. Okay. So if you're an experienced investor, that means you've done 4 investment properties in the last 2 years. And we will lend you 90% loan to cost. Normally, we'll say 90% loan to value. The reason why we don't say value is because the value right now is shit, right? The value is not there. So loan to cost, which means whatever the property is getting sold for. 100% of the rehab cost is financed into the loan. And I'm going to show you how that works. And then but the loan also, to make it work, has to be 75% of after repair value. Stay with me here. I'll show you in just 1 second. An inexperienced investor is at 0 for 3 properties in the past 2 years, 85% loan to cost, 100% rehab finance, 75%, I'm sorry, on this one, it's 70% ARV for the inexperienced investor. The great thing is there's no income check required. They must close in most cases in an LLC. Not all, but in most. Some cases, there's no asset check required, and it's a 660 minimum credit score, which means that they don't have to show any income. They might not even have a job. They don't have to show assets in a lot of cases. They just are going to look at the property. So, I thought I did. 1 second. Thought I had, I don't have it here. Let me just show you guys an example of this, okay? So if you have a property of $200,000, it looks like one of these, right? So you have a seller, they're going to sell it for $200,000, and you need to put 10% down, so $20,000 down. So now you have a loan of $180,000, okay? And it's going to cost you $100,000 to fix the property. That $100,000 is going to be financed, and it's going to be given to you in draws throughout the construction or the rehab. So that means that at closing, you're going to put down $20,000 plus whatever the closing costs are. This is a hard money loan. So the lender, the closing costs are going to be higher, right? I think I paid 3 points. I personally was on, I didn't do my own loan. I think I paid 3 points on it. So some are 2, some are 3. It just depends. The rates are higher too. But you put 10% down, that $100,000 gets paid out in draws. Your total loan amount is $280,000, let's just say, on that property. And let's just say it's worth $400,000 after it's completed, as long as the 75%, the total loan amount, the $280,000, is within 75% of the after repair value. The property works, right? That works. So that is a fix and flip. If you are going after, if you have a listing, I cannot tell you how many listings are in the MLS right now that say cash only. I had my virtual assistant go in and email every single listing agent in the MLS to tell them about this program, because they don't know about it. And their buyer pool is like this because they're advertising cash only, but they can advertise financed as well, not conventional, not FHA, not VA, but the fix and flip. And it's only 10 to 15% down. Awesome program, amazing for investors. Guys, go and promote this program. I'm telling you, if you're looking for deals right now, find the crappy properties, because you're going to get 2 deals out of it. You're going to get the deal at the buy side right now, and you're going to get that listing when they fix it, unless they decide to hold it and rent it. These are short-term loans, 12 to 24 months. So, they're going to have to do something with it within 12 to 24 months, list it or rent it. So going to the rental, right? Let's just say that they decide to rent the property. This is a debt service coverage ratio loan. I just left this very general because the ratio can be different. But this is, once again, a lot of times you're closing in an LLC, not every time, but a lot of times. This is only for investment properties that are rented. So they don't have to be rented at closing. We can get a market rent schedule to see what the rent is going to be. We do allow for short-term Airbnb rentals, and we do allow for long-term, obviously long-term rentals as well. No income check required. So we're not looking at the person's income. Once again, they might not even have a job. We're not even putting it on the application, okay? They will need reserves. They will need assets. So the way that this works is that the total monthly mortgage payment, we're talking property, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and association dues, which we call PITIA, has to equal or exceed the total monthly rent. In some cases, I can see it go below where like the monthly rent is, let's just say 75% to whatever the mortgage payment is. I have seen that before. So it's not always a 1-to-1 ratio. It's going to depend on the credit score, right? And the property. But if you want to just have an idea when you're selling this type of product or working with an investor that really wants to buy an investment property, but they don't have the income to show, just kind of use rule of thumb 1-to-1 ratio. As long as the mortgage payment, total mortgage payment of $3,500 is going to meet the rental monthly rent of $3,500, you're good to go. We can do this on a purchase and we can do it on a cash out refinance. So DSCR loan is also called debt service coverage ratio loan, which just means that the monthly rent has to cover the debt service. So that is the DSCR loan. Here's that fix and flip example that I was looking for. So client sells the home for $200, needs $100 in repairs. The home value after is $500. The purchase price is $200,000. This is one thing I want you guys to pay attention to here, though. Purchase price of $200. So the initial loan amount's $180. They put $20,000 down. The home repairs are $100,000. They're going to be paid out in draws. The total loan amount is $280. And if the after repair value is $500, that's a 56%. Remember, we had to meet that 75% after repair value. The minimum after repair value, I've seen this happen before, is $375. So if when the appraiser goes out to the property and says, well, this property will only, after repair value is only $350 or $325, okay? It doesn't mean that it's not going to work. What it does mean is you're going to have to put more money down at closing because you have to also meet that 70 to 75% after repair value. So that's when, they're going to look at what it costs now, how much are the repairs, what are you putting into the property in terms of quality, and then what would that property appraise for in today's market, assuming that it was fixed. And that's what the appraiser is going to look at. So that is basically it. I know I talked very fast. April is going to show you guys an amazing tool that she has. So I'm going to give it over to her in 1 second. I just have a huge favor to ask you guys a couple of things. So number one, if you can scan the QR code and just take a quick survey after April's done or whenever. I just want to know what your thoughts were on the class. I also am asking you, I'm growing my YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube, look up Danielle Damianov, Real Estate Secrets Unlocked. I have 2 YouTube channels, but the Real Estate Secrets Unlocked is the one that I'm doing a lot more on. And I'm doing a lot of little trainings, 5, 10, 15-minute trainings here and there on different tools that you guys can use as real estate agents. And there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up that I'm super excited about. So if you would please scan the QR code and do the survey, as well as like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate it.